It's no secret human history has been full of oppression. Some even say kill or be killed, competition is our natural condition. Some have said it is possible to share the world because humans are smart, but no one ever explained the problems or the solutions quite the same as Karl Marx. He studied law and philosophy, and in the 1840s in Paris, he met Frederick Engels, and they wrote the Communist Manifesto, which says this: when society is divided between a few haves and have-not masses, the have-nots have the numbers so they can kick the haves' asses. But no matter who is on top, the oppression cycle will start again until there's no more top or bottom, and then the oppression will end. Remember, this was the 1800s, the end of kings ruling the lands. Marx saw the new capitalist business class now had the upper hand, but he saw that to exist, capitalism must pay. For example, shoe factory workers can't afford to buy the shoes. There'll be more products and less people who can afford to buy them. Then there'll be more wars over resources until capitalism can't survive. The ideas in the manifesto blew a lot of people's minds, but at first it was just a theory, and then the Paris Commune of 1871 first made communism a reality. This is the complete history of communism, part 2. 18 years before the Eiffel Tower was the 1871 Paris Commune. And it started when France declared war on Prussia, which was disastrous, because the Prussians defeated the French and they came in and took over Paris. But then the citizens of Paris rose up and took over the city on their own. They defied the Prussians and the French government, and they declared Paris to be a commune. Some say it was the most democratic society the world had ever seen. Everybody took turns being defenders, education was free, rent was free. Well, did they make too many mistakes, or did they just never have a chance? After a couple months, they were crushed by the Prussians working together with the right-wing French. Complete history of communism, part 3. The formation of the Soviet Union. First I'll introduce two men, Trotsky and Lenin, who led the Russian Revolution. At first they were political enemies of each other, but they were both always distributing Marxist pamphlets and committing revolutionary acts. They were both always getting thrown in jail and escaping and getting exiled and coming back. Now I'll introduce Russia in 1900, basically an unindustrial medieval sort of place. Ruled over by the Tsar and the church and the landlords, most of the people lived practically as slaves. There were a number of revolutions which tried and failed, like one in 1905. But then when World War I happened, the Russian people decided that they had finally had enough. Fighting against industrialized Germany, the Russian army lost more soldiers than any army in any war in history before, and they started to think, well, we could keep getting blown apart for the sake of our rich leaders, but really, what the heck for? Because the same commanding officers who send us out to die, they're our landlords back at home, and they tax our land and steal our bread. We wouldn't have to die in their war or be starving and poor if we just got smart and shot all of them instead. So in February 1917, there were massive uprisings, and Tsar Nicholas knew his time had come, and he just gave up and went. And power fell into the hands of the rich parliament, called the Dumas, who became the provisional government. But this group still did not give land or food to the peasants, plus they continued to fight World War I. All those disgruntled soldiers and workers and peasants across the land knew a bigger change would have to come. Meanwhile, Lenin was in exile somewhere, I'm not sure where, I haven't drawn it yet, when he heard, and he took a sealed train across the battlegrounds and arrived back in the Russian capital in 1917, April 3rd. And then finally, Trotsky joined forces with Lenin, and together their ideas for a better kind of government were spread. They said power should be in the hands of smaller local councils called Soviets, and they demanded immediate peace, land, and bread. And the revolution happened almost totally peacefully in 1917's October. In the largest country in the world, a Marx-inspired revolution had actually peacefully taken over. Well, taking power was peaceful and easy, but then a horrendous civil war exploded between the communist red armies who wanted change and the white armies who wanted a return to imperial power and land returned to the landlord owners. The white armies were separate groups, but they were funded by capitalists in America, France, England, and Japan. And the red army was just a peasant army, but they had the support of most of the peasants across the land. And that's all I have so far on that documentary. I'll have more next time. Thanks.